Hello, I'm Sebastian. Welcome to 9 Trees podcast. Today, I will summarize and review the book. The Black Jacobins, Toussaint L'Ouverture, and the Saint Domingue Revolution by C.L.R. James is a landmark work of history that examines the Haitian Revolution and its world-changing consequences. Centered on the rise of Toussaint L'Ouverture, the book follows how enslaved people in the French colony of Saint Domingue transformed a brutal plantation society into the first Black Republic and the first modern nation, born from a successful slave revolt. James situates events on the island within the broader currents of the late 18th century, especially the French Revolution, European imperial rivalry, and the economic engine of Atlantic slavery. The narrative is both political and human, tracing shifting alliances, the pressures of war, and the dilemmas faced by revolutionary leaders confronting foreign invasion and internal division. Widely discussed for its clarity and argumentative force, the book highlights the agency of ordinary rebels alongside the strategic and moral challenges of leadership. It remains essential for readers interested in revolution, colonialism, and freedom struggles. I will give you key takeaways from this book. Firstly, Saint Domingue and the Machinery of Plantation Slavery. James begins from the material reality of Saint Domingue, a colony whose wealth depended on an exceptionally violent system of plantation labor. Understanding that system is not background decoration but a core driver of the revolution. The book emphasizes how the colony sat at the center of Atlantic capitalism, generating immense profits while relying on relentless coercion, racial hierarchy, and the constant threat of punishment to maintain production. This social order produced multiple fault lines: a wealthy planter class tied to France, free people of color navigating legal restrictions and aspirations, poor whites competing for status, and the vast majority enslaved and treated as disposable labor. James uses these divisions to show why the colony was both powerful and unstable. He links the intensity of exploitation to the scale of resistance, arguing that rebellion was not spontaneous chaos, but an outcome shaped by lived conditions, collective memory, and practical knowledge within enslaved communities. By mapping interests and tensions among groups, the book explains how political conflict could ignite quickly once metropolitan authority weakened. The result is a portrait of a society where economic success and social brutality were inseparable, making revolution not only possible, but increasingly likely. Secondly, revolutionary ideas meet colonial reality. A central theme is how the French Revolution reshaped possibilities in the colony while also exposing the limits of universal ideals under slavery. James traces how declarations of rights and political upheaval in France reverberated across the Atlantic, provoking disputes over citizenship, representation, and racial equality. Free people of color pressed claims that challenged white supremacy, while planters attempted to defend autonomy and profits. The book shows that revolutionary language could be wielded by different factions, sometimes sincerely and sometimes opportunistically. What makes James distinctive is his insistence that enslaved people were not passive recipients of ideas from Europe. They interpreted events through their own experience and turned the language of liberty into action that directly confronted the plantation system. The clash between proclaimed principles and colonial practice becomes a catalyst. When rights are invoked but denied, conflict escalates. James also explores how external powers and metropolitan politicians tried to manage the crisis, alternating between concessions and repression. This topic highlights the interplay between ideology and interest, revealing how lofty claims about freedom were tested, compromised, and ultimately transformed by the force of mass struggle in Saint Domingue. Thirdly, Toussaint L'Ouverture. As strategist and statesman, James presents Toussaint L'Ouverture as a leader shaped by extraordinary circumstances, combining military talent with political judgment under relentless pressure. The book examines Toussaint not as a mythic hero, but as a strategist navigating shifting alliances, scarce resources, and the need to unify a revolutionary movement across class and regional differences. He appears as someone who learned quickly from battlefield realities and diplomatic constraints, negotiating with representatives of France while anticipating betrayal and foreign intervention. James emphasizes Toussaint's ability to transform insurgent energy into organized force, forging discipline without extinguishing the revolutionary drive of the formerly enslaved. At the same time, the narrative explores the dilemmas of governance after initial victories, restoring economic production, maintaining order, and defending the revolution from enemies inside and out. Toussaint's decisions are portrayed as both pragmatic and contested, reflecting the difficulty of building a new society while fighting multiple wars. James uses Toussaint's rise to illuminate broader questions about revolutionary leadership, including how leaders balance principle with survival and how personal authority can both protect and endanger a popular movement. Fourthly, international war, diplomacy, and the struggle for survival. The Haitian Revolution unfolded within a wider geopolitical storm, and James treats international conflict as inseparable from local transformation. He tracks how Spain and Britain sought advantage in the chaos, aiming to seize territory, preserve slavery, or weaken France. These interventions created new openings and dangers for revolutionary forces, forcing them to make hard calculations about alliances and legitimacy. The book underscores that emancipation was not merely a moral stance, but also a military and diplomatic problem. Declaring freedom could expand recruitment and morale, yet it provoked intense opposition from slaveholding interests across the Atlantic. James examines how French policy shifted as metropolitan governments changed, showing how decisions about abolition, citizenship, and colonial administration were entangled with war aims and domestic politics. This topic highlights the constant volatility of promises made by distant authorities and the necessity for local leaders to secure gains through force and negotiation. It also demonstrates how the revolution influenced global debates about slavery and empire, alarming colonial elites while inspiring the oppressed. By portraying war and diplomacy as continuous, James clarifies why the revolution's outcome depended on both battlefield victories and the ability to outmaneuver rival empires. Lastly, from emancipation to independence and the legacy of 1804, James follows the revolution beyond the initial overthrow of slavery toward the complicated birth of a new nation. He explores how emancipation raised urgent questions about labor, land, and political authority. Building a viable economy after plantation slavery required policies that could sustain production while honoring the freedom that made the revolution meaningful, a tension that repeatedly tested leaders and communities. The book also addresses the decisive break with France under Napoleon's attempt to restore control, a moment that dramatizes the global stakes of the revolution and the fragility of gains without independence. James treats independence not as an inevitable endpoint, but as a conclusion reached through escalating conflict, betrayal, and collective resolve. He shows how the revolution reverberated far beyond Haiti, altering how people imagined race, citizenship, and the possibility of liberation in the modern world. The legacy includes inspiration for abolitionist movements and fear among slaveholding societies, alongside the burdens placed on the new state by isolation and hostility. This topic emphasizes that the Haitian Revolution was both a triumph of human agency and a starting point for long struggles over sovereignty and development. In conclusion, this book is best suited for readers who want more than a basic timeline of the Haitian Revolution, students of history, politics, and Caribbean studies, readers interested in slavery and abolition, and anyone drawn to the dynamics of revolutions and leadership under pressure. It benefits the reader by connecting individual choices and mass action to large structural forces such as empire, war, and economic extraction. The result is a clearer understanding of how freedom struggles succeed, why they fracture, and how victories can be threatened by international power. James also expands the reader's sense of modern history by placing formerly enslaved people at the center of world events rather than at the margins, which can sharpen how one interprets later anti-colonial and civil rights movements. Compared with similar books, its enduring value lies in the combination of narrative drive and political analysis. It is not only a recounting of battles and decrees, but an argument about revolution as a process shaped by class, race, and global competition. For buyers, that blend makes it a foundational, repeatedly revisitable work rather than a single-use overview. If you would like to support C.L.R. James, you can buy the book through the Amazon link as provided in the podcast description. After reading the book, please let me know what you think and share your thoughts. See you around.